and the drone attacks and these new strategy of Hezbollah by using drones together with rockets are bringing them to some sort of to their knees, because of they're desperate. They don't know how to deal with that. Even we had the Israeli ambassador to the UN mentioning that. Here is what he said.
Example of a drone used by Hezbollah. This is what we are dealing with. Now Hezbollah are using different kinds of drones. Few of them with fiber-optic. These drones weigh less than 2 kilograms. It flies low. It is very difficult to detect. And by the time you hear it above your head, it's too late. It can fly undetected for tens of miles. And all of a sudden you see it above your head. A thin cable is what makes this drone different. It does not rely on a radio signal. It cannot be easily jammed, unfortunately. It gives the operator a live video feed and direct control until impact. This is a modern warfare, cheap, precise, deadly.
Yeah. Laith, what is happening in Lebanon, and what do we know about the ongoing war between Lebanon and Israel?
Well, I just want to correct something. The Israelis were threatening to attack the Dahi, the southern suburb, but they never did. And that is, of course, thanks to Iran threatening immediately to destroy much of the North occupied Palestine. And they had a warning with a map telling all the colonists in all of north of Palestine, all the way to Haifa and Tabariya Lake, to be ready to pack up and leave if the Netanyahu regime is crazy enough to attack the Dahi. So it's been now 2 days of everybody kind of waiting to see if Netanyahu is crazy enough to do that and trigger a direct confrontation with Iran. On the battlefield, as you mentioned, and as the crocodile tear ambassador of the Zionist colony in the United Nations were pointing out, the tactics that Hezbollah is using, whether it's the FPVs and or the ambushes that is setting up for the advancing Israeli troops, are so effective that we know at least 400 tanks and armored vehicles have been destroyed inside South Lebanon, and that right now the surveillance capabilities of Hezbollah in the north of occupied Palestine, because of its constant destruction of the Iron Dome batteries. We've seen tens of them being destroyed over the last 2 months inside occupied Palestine in the north. Now the drones of Hezbollah and the missiles of Hezbollah that are flying to attack bases and positions of Israeli troops inside occupied Palestine are undeterred, undefended. They can hit anything they want to, and they are hitting anything they want to. They've been targeting the Meron base in Meron Mountain in the north of the Galilee. This is the most important command and control base that the Israelis have, and they have been pounding Israeli colonies all the way, of course, in the Hula Valley. Just a few minutes ago, there was huge explosions in the Miskaf Am colony. This is in the panhandle of Palestine that sticks up in the map. And Netanya and other colonies are also coming under attack. Part of these attacks are attacks on gatherings of Israeli soldiers or their bases, but other attacks which are really, hurting the Israelis really badly are the ones that are targeted assassinations of Israeli officers, commanders, colonels, and what have you, that are staying behind the borderline, giving commands to the Israeli troops that are moving. And we saw Hezbollah hunt these officers inside the colonies, in even homes that they are hiding in, to camouflage where they are. Their vehicles are being spotted by Hezbollah's surveillance drones, and then their vehicles, as they move, getting attacked. And so we know the Israelis have admitted at least 12 officers dead over the last week, and in fact, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, named those officers that were liquidated by Hezbollah. So the battle is going Hezbollah's way, and the axis of resistance is so confident with Hezbollah's performance that up until now, the tacit agreement between the United States and Iran that Hezbollah and Israel can fight it off in South Lebanon, and the winner takes all, has been to the advantage of Hezbollah. And this is why we saw Netanyahu trying to attack Beirut, to cause a mass casualty event, to trigger Iran intervening, which will have dragged the United States to come and defend this failing military campaign of Netanyahu. So this is actually what's behind this thing. And I think what we saw over the last 24 hours, whether it's the statements about Trump disagreement with Netanyahu, or those attacks that happened last night on Iran and on some of the Arabian Peninsula vassals, those all show how fragile the situation is, and how easy it is that we could find ourselves rolling into a regional war without notice.
Donald Trump, in his interview just yesterday, said, "I'm concerned about the ongoing conflict between Netanyahu and Lebanon." And what has happened, Laith, when Israelis announced that they're going to attack Dahia, the United States said, if you want to prevent the attack on Dahia, you have to stop attacking Israel in the southern part of Lebanon. So they're dealing one part with the other part of Lebanon. They're talking about Lebanon. They're not talking about Israel. Then Iran came in and said, if they attack Dahia, we're going to attack the northern part of Israel. They have to evacuate their homes. And what is the situation in Dahia today? We've seen some footages coming out of Dahia that people are leaving their homes. And are they getting back to their homes? Because Professor Marandi said something so much, because he said these people have been removed from their homes, and the other neighborhoods in Lebanon, they are coordinating with other GCC countries, with the government in Lebanon. They don't let these people to go to their neighborhood in other parts of Lebanon, because they want to put pressure on the axis of resistance. And we know how important Dahia is for the axis of resistance.
Yeah, there's two things here that you mentioned. One is the offer for ceasefire that Rubio and the United States were trying to offer here. And what the deal what they were offering is Dahia for North Palestine. If you stop bombing North Palestine, occupied Palestine, we will stop bombing the Dahia. And Hezbollah, of course, didn't agree to this formula, because what Hezbollah wants is South Lebanon for North Palestine. That's the formula. If you attack the Dahia, then we'll attack Tel Aviv. That's what makes more sense. And of course, both the Speaker of the House, Nabih Berri, that represents the Amal party, and Hezbollah's representatives all disregarded this offer and returned with the offer to the Americans that a total ceasefire and total withdrawal of occupied territories in Lebanon will lead to ceasefire from Hezbollah's side. Hezbollah is not going to fall for that one-sided ceasefire ever again, as Iran is not going to accept that also in its dealings with Israel and the United States. So we were past that reality of when Israel can get away with one-sided ceasefires, as it did in Gaza and or in South Lebanon during the 2025 ceasefire. So we're now clear. The loudest voice of negotiation on the table of negotiation is the bullet. Whoever can enforce their will enforce the terms of the ceasefire. And neither Israel or the United States have the upper hand militarily to dictate the limitations of this ceasefire. In terms of the people in the Dahi, yeah, when the Israelis threatened to bomb al-Dahi, there was a panic. This is 300, 400,000 people living in a condensed area that had to evacuate as fast as possible. There was scenes of chaos, hours of traffic in and out of the Dahi. And most people are staying out of the Dahi, not because they're afraid. It's clear that, maybe more than any time now that the Israelis will not dare attack the Dahi. But let's see. I don't want to preempt that. But people are worried that just the scenes of them going back en masse into the Dahi will anger the Zionists so much, because everything that's in the minds of the Zionists is about supremacy. And if that they would actually attack the Dahi just out of spite once they see people going back and having normal lives. They don't like normalcy in anyone's life. So if there is people going back, they are not making a big fuss about it, and then there isn't a big movement. And I think even Hezbollah itself is telling people, don't make a big fuss about it, so these crazies don't, their feelings don't get too hurt, and then they do something crazy for that. The other neighborhoods, I understand what Professor Marandi was talking about. There is attempts by some of the political parties that are beholden by money from the Gulf to assert their power over neighborhoods that they control, and to try to not have internal displaced people move into them. And this is not everywhere. This is in very certain areas where there is total control by the Kata'ib party or the Quwat party. Okay, and these are the Christian supremacist parties. In the Sunni regions, even though most of the leadership of the Sunni sect, religiously and politically, are beholden to Gulf money, the population is not of that attitude, and so we see a lot of the Sunni areas and the Duruz areas being the destination for the internally displaced. And finally, I would say that even in the Christian areas, the vast majority that are outside control of the Kata'ib and the Quwat, the people are welcome in them. I would say the biggest obstacle for the internally displaced right now is the price gouging for apartments and so forth, and that's more a capitalist, greed issue than sectarianism.
Laith, in the last 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, we've learned that Israel is approaching Litani River or crossing the Litani River. Was that right? And where was that happen? And it's going to be all along the Litani River or some parts of the Litani River? And what is the situation there?
Yeah, well, it is deceiving, of course, the statements by the Israelis, because when you look at the map, the Israelis crossed from the closest point between the border of Palestine to the Litani River, and that's like less than 5 kilometers away. It's like 4 kilometers, 4.5 kilometers. And to get through that path, it's Christian villages, Marja'yun and Dir Siryan, that Hezbollah doesn't have, permanent positions in. Therefore, it was an easy walk from there. But once they got to the river from that axis of 4 kilometers through these 2 Christian villages, they were stuck for almost 3 weeks trying to go up to reach Bufour Castle, the Crusader archaeological treasure that is outside Nabatea city, in order to kind of have a fire view into Nabatea city. And while that may sound, militarily logical, that could have been true a long time ago. But now with these FPVs, once the Israelis, after 3 weeks of pushing to get to Bufour Castle, finally getting to it, they are now sitting ducks on top of a hill that has no vegetation cover. So there, we saw over the last 2 days multiple videos by Hezbollah showing the attacks of FPVs on soldiers, on tanks, on Humvees, and we can count at least 12 armored vehicles destroyed around the Bufour Castle. So it's becoming a liability. So because the Israelis wanted to have that image of, whoa, we caught the Crusader Castle of Bufour, and now we crossed past the Litani River. Look at us. That's a stupid way of decision making in Israel, and it's because they're so desperate for an image of success, and they haven't been able to move past that. They're stuck in the 2 villages around the Bufour Castle, and they're getting pounded. Also, just an hour ago, on the other axis that they've been trying to push on the coast from Naqoura towards Tyre or Sur city, they have been stuck again for 3 weeks on Al Bayada, which is the main village between Tyre and Naqoura. And just this morning, Hezbollah announced a huge operation destroying and attacking a gathering of Israeli soldiers there. Many of these supposed high points that the Israelis want to take to control by fire, the main cities of Tyre and Nabatea, are actually becoming kill zones for them.
Laith, what do we know about the explosives on these drones, and how capable are they, and what is the damage that each one of these drones can cause when it comes to the Israeli soldiers, or Iron Dome batteries, or communication systems? What do we know about that?
Yeah, it seems like Hezbollah is tailoring the weapon on the bottom of this FPV depending on the target. So we see FPVs using fragmenting missiles when the FPVs are targeted towards foot soldiers or infantry outside their armored vehicles, and that's immediate kill, obviously, or decapitation or loss of limbs, for anyone that's gonna be near a fragmenting missile. Then we see them using armor-piercing, shells, and they're using that specifically to hit Merkavas and APCs and those armored bulldozers. And that's taking those equipment out of commission immediately, of course, if not total destruction. And again, we are seeing them using the armored piercing missiles and or fragmenting missiles alternately when they are targeting homes or where the Israelis are basing themselves in the occupied South Lebanon. And that's, again, anyone that's inside those houses are, minced meat after those explosions. I don't know if your viewers saw this, but last week in Al Bayada, which Hezbollah just attacked this morning, the Israelis had set up a command base, and Hezbollah released a video of a melange of all of the FPVs attacking this command base. And one of these videos went through the window, and you could see all the set up computers and screens and so forth that were controlling whatever cameras and so on in the area that the Israelis set up. And that missile, drone, FPV, just taking that whole command center out. So damage is huge to the presence of the Israelis